Hello, everybody. May 7th. Welcome to our membership gathering. Today we have a very special guest. Her name is Justine Cohen. Before I bring her on, I'm going to I did a little card reading this morning, our group reading from my Spirit Wisdom Animal deck. And the card I pulled was Blessings, Dragonfly. Transform defeatist attitudes. Clear away the illusion of obstacles, see the blessings and hardships, and receive the gifts before you. So what does that mean? When we're telling ourselves, again, those stories that are self-defeating, oh, I can't do that, oh, there's too much competition, oh, he's not gonna like what I'm doing, whatever it is, I'm not good enough. We unconsciously keep repeating those stories. We don't even know sometimes. We're not conscious of our thoughts. And when we do this, we create obstacles. There's things that happen, and we automatically think, well, we become hopeless, we become depressed, or whatever. We just go off on these. We don't stay centered. And the thing to remember here is what Dragonfly is telling us is that obstacles are only an illusion, right? Because obstacles are just a way of the universe rerouting us. And if we could remember that everything is for our highest good. So let's say you're pushing towards something, whatever that might be, or maybe even you're working too much, and then you're not listening to signs, you're not listening to those little red flags, so you break your leg and you're forced to rest. Or, you're driving, you can't get somewhere, there's so much, big traffic jams, and you keep pushing ahead, you keep pushing against the stream, you get to where you're going and the place is closed. I mean, things like that. So we have to look at obstacles as really being signs that are redirecting us. And to remember that when we don't look at hardships as, when we don't resist hardships and we welcome them, then we start to see those blessings that are otherwise hidden. The blessings are there, we close off. So basically what what Dragonfly is saying, here for millions of years, Dragonfly has developed mobility and alertness. She sees and moves in all directions, calculating and changing directions in a flash. She teaches us the secret of magical flight. Make moves in the moment. Allow each moment to determine the next. So don't overthink things. Watch your defeatist mindsets, your thoughts. Be aware of that. Don't look at obstacles as hardships, and see the blessings. So, and that was a good card. We all need to remember that. So today, I want to talk a little bit about Justine before I bring her on. I met Justine just before the pandemic. So probably in 2021 or 2020 or 2021. I haven't known her that long. It feels like I've known Justine for like 10 years. It's only been like maybe 5, 6. And the way we met, I had put a advertisement for my Spirit Wisdom Animal Oracle deck at this cafe that I always go to. It's one of the best cafes in LA. They make the best matcha lattes in Los Angeles. I'm not kidding. So she saw it, she saw the ad and ordered a deck. And somehow, I guess, I don't know if I must have emailed her telling her the deck was on its way, or I don't know what happened, but we started emailing, and I mentioned how, I need help with something. And she said, well, I'm a coach. I can help you with that. And I said, well, right now I'm not in the position to, she says, I'll do it for free. And she helped me. She coached me for a while. I gave her the deck at no charge, and we became friends. And I remember during the pandemic, she was very kind. She offered to buy my groceries for me. You know, at that time we were all scared, and they were warning seniors not to go out, and we were very vulnerable. I went out anyway. I got my own groceries, but we remember those things. She probably doesn't even remember, but she did offer, and I really, really, I was very touched by that. Because no one else offered, and she barely knew me. And then she took my workshop, my beginning intermediate animal communication workshop. And from there, we've just remained friends. Now, at the time, I knew her, even though she was coaching, she had shared with me that she was doing she was always a medium and always receiving messages from spirit. So I was very surprised when, we lost touch for a while. And I was surprised when I heard that she was, because, I get her newsletters. I was surprised that she was communicating to baby spirits. And I thought, what is that? Like, I can't wait to bring her on and to find out more about what she does and all about it. So let me tell you a little bit about Justine. She is a spirit baby medium, bridging connection to souls before they are born. Not those who are just dead, but those who are ready to take birth. Years of holistic recovery, inner child work, and devotion has shaped her baby spirit practice. Certified in psychic mediumship, spiritual work is her blood lineage, and self-development is her superpower. She is initiated physically into the energies of ancient Egypt and the codes of Mary Magdalene in Avalon, Wales, and Glastonbury. Through years of priestess training with High Priestess Dr. D. Kennedy and Priestess Sacred Union and Conscious Conception Studies with High Priestess Elise Lily Mathia. I hope I pronounced that correctly. She's also an ongoing one-on-one study with an Apache elder medicine carrier. Her seeking has generated additional certifications and studies in Reiki 1 healing, Akashic Records, and Tarot, astrology, Zen meditation, personal training, and an MBA. Currently, she is located in Grass Valley, California. So let's bring on Justine Cohen. Hi,
Hi. Oh, what a sweet intro.
an honor to have you here. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for telling the story of our meeting and yeah, sharing. It's like, we're so in our lives and focused on the next thing and where we're going. It's really nice to hear like where I've been and yeah, how we've woven through the years too. So thanks for sharing all of that.
Okay, so I'm going to go and give this fully to Justine now. So I'll see you all later.
Okay, so I figure I'd start with, I'm just adjusting my screens. There we go. Figured I'd just start sharing a little bit more about what I do and why this is relevant to everyone here. I connect with spirit babies, so their souls on the way in, souls preparing for birth, conception. So I work mostly with mothers who are trying to conceive or thinking about having kids in the future, or a lot of fertility loss or pregnancy loss. And it's a different kind of mediumship than souls who have died, because they're fresh, they're new, they're ready for their new life, even if they've been here before, even if they've had many, many lives, they're getting ready for this beautiful innocence, this beautiful naivete of birth, of even if they, don't go to term, even if they're, a partial or an incomplete pregnancy, they're still in that part of getting a body again, touching back down to life, and that promise or that commitment we all make when we come back to forget everything we know and start over. So there's this real innocence and creativity to these souls that honestly I feel like is really akin to animals. Um, Animals are also really innocent, just such beautiful, there's this beautiful innocence to animal souls. So it my class with Diana, when I took her animal communication class, that was actually my first ever psychic mediumship class or any kind of psychic training. I've since had more, but at first I was like, this is so funny that I'm starting with animals and then going to babies. But to me, it makes sense because of it's like the frequency. And so. Yeah, so I work, mostly with women who are trying to conceive either naturally or with fertility treatments. I'll speak a bit to like the general ethos and the why behind the work, um, from my experience. And it's, well, first of all, I see that my clients are the spirit babies. Those are my primary clients, and then my secondary clients are the parent, the future parent who is paying or sitting for the reading. So I really focus on the spirit babies. That's really where my purpose is driven. Then, of course, I work with the humans here to have that work be embodied and realized and tangible and actionable. And I find that spirit baby mediumship is grounded. There's a groundedness to it versus some other kinds of psychic communication that for me have felt like disembodied or can not as like a criticism, but often that's what it is. In mediumship, I'm the medium, I'm in the middle. So human 3D, spirit on the other side, 5D, 7D, whatever you want to call it. I raise my vibration, they drop down, we meet in the middle. And because of that, there's this, upper chakra activation, and it can feel yeah, just very heady or very through the veil and not all the way grounded. And so then grounding is super important for those kinds of practices. Whoever you're communicating with over there. With spirit babies, I find that it's innately more grounded to begin with because they're oriented to our bodies or their next mother. Um, so because of that, the work tends to also be tethered to the lower chakras, sacral chakra, root chakra. And so I really like that about this practice, the innate groundedness. And I also find that it's a bit more accessible for people who have, I don't know, less confidence in their psychic abilities or less developed psychic abilities, mediumship abilities, whatever it is. I find that they're somehow able to connect to their spirit baby easier. And I find that it's through mother's intuition, this idea of mother's intuition that we've accepted in our society. We don't totally accept psychic skills, mediumship skills, but for some reason we believe in mother's intuition because it's so undeniable. But to me, that's a psychic skill. And so it's almost as if we can use that before the baby gets here. And so, you could communicate to your spirit babies for any kids you want to have in the future, any pregnancies you've had in the past. Or sometimes I just find that some spirit babies might be just hanging around you. They don't, and they're almost like guides, and they don't know when they want to be born yet. They haven't chosen their parents. They're just kind of hanging around. So even if you're not thinking about having kids ever or past that part of your life, you still might have a spirit baby around as a kind of guide. So yeah, and to continue the thought around the ethos that of it all and some of why this is purpose-driven work for me is, if you look at fertility rates in the United States, it is dismal. And you look at birth outcomes, we have so many interventions and so many negative outcomes, especially for Black women. I believe it's brown and Black women, but especially Black women. The rates of death for mothers, it's insane. And so our infertility and then our birth outcomes, or the amount of C-sections, whatever it is, and no judgments to anyone, but if you compare what we do in this country to other first world countries, we're nowhere near. We are rated next to third world countries for our rates of fertility and healthy pregnancies and birth without intervention. Um, and so as a society in the United States, and this is where I live, I'm committed to living here, at least for now, and so also committed to be part of the solution, but we're forgetting to how to conceive and how to procreate and how to reproduce. And I mean, children are our hope. If we're having children, it's because we believe that there's a future worth having. And I do believe that. And so we need to know how to procreate. We need to know how to keep going. And I could go down the rabbit holes of the government and control and blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't really have to go there, but, whether we're forgetting how to procreate or it's happening to us and for reasons, for control, or you know, whatever. I don't have to like be in the fear of it. Um, but I do know that it's happening and that I want to be part of the solution. And whether that's helping people have babies by remembering their connection to their body, by having this direct relationship with the soul they're trying to bring in. So instead of like, I want to have any pregnancy. It's like, I want to bring this specific soul here. And how do you do that? How do you like help this soul get into this womb? And then through the pregnancy, through to happy baby, healthy in arms, um, really facilitating that direct connection so we can, as a society, remember how to procreate, whether that's naturally or with medical assistance. With that technology either way. I believe in the spirit babies who want to be here. I believe in the women and men and all people who want to become parents. I believe that that's a shared desire. What I've seen is that if someone has a desire to have a child, they have a spirit baby on the other side who is like putting that energy and that emotion into their body. So my desire to have a child is also my future child's desire being expressed in my body. And I've chosen to believe in that, to believe the spirit babies, to believe the people who want to be parents, and to help facilitate that connection. Um, to really facilitate that soul's purpose and reason for being here. Um, there's a lot of souls that are tapping out. There's a lot of souls that are leaving, that are dying. Human, animal, plant, all of it. We're having so many souls opt out. Tired, weary souls. It is no joke to be alive right now. And we have a far way to go to creating a society where everyone's taken care of and there's harmony and more love than fear. We have a long way to go. And so we need the souls who are like, yes, I still want to come, and yes, I want to be here. And I trust that if the souls are coming to me, part of my opening prayers include only connecting through frequencies of unconditional love for the highest good of all. So that's an overarching prayer that I have. So, believing the souls that want to get here. Um, and then especially and I say women because it's mostly women who come to me. I do work with trans folks and men or couples, but it's, 80-90% women. Um, if they're coming to me then they have this extra sensitivity to the other side. And I want to help them. I want to help foster that. Um, and it's like they get to be a parent early. They get to start parenting this little soul before they have them in their arms. And that goes so far. How long before a kid talks? 2 years, and still they like 2-year-olds barely have full language. Their parents can understand them, but still they can't fully express. But there's so much nonverbal time. 9 months of pregnancy, however long until they have full language skills. And in that time of nonverbal communication, that's when the mother's intuition and spirit baby connection, intuitive psychic connection with that child is so important. And if the person is fostering it before there's even an embodied connection of pregnancy, it's going to go so far. So many of the kids coming in these days are super sensitive, really high rates of highly sensitive kids. And so they need parents who are more intuitive, more sensitive, who are looking at things on a nonverbal level, which is also how we connect with our animals. I know we all talk to our animals and do they really understand us? Who knows? It's as if they do, and also we need to connect with them on different levels through feeling, through sensing, through our psychic skills, through our animal communication practice, um, whatever it is, in the same way that we can do that with our children, which I don't think is as accepted in our society of like sitting down to meditate, to connect with your baby who's already here. Um, Not that that's also accepted for animals too, but it's almost as if like if the baby's here, we expect to just be able to talk to them because they're supposed to know our language. But yeah, and then I'm just excited. I've been doing this work, spirit baby work. I think this is my 4th year. So the babies are being born. Some are here, they're growing, but I'm really excited to see this cohort of, it's not even a cohort, it's like many, many souls who are being raised to parents who are fostering their own intuition. And so, people like me who had mediumship skills my whole life, but there was like a decade or two where I completely shut it off because I wasn't told to foster it and that it was okay. Um, Parents to these kids who have been practicing communication through other channels, the kids are gonna have those skills respected. And then they get to grow up and be in the society. So yeah, that's, one one of the other many reasons why I love this work, and it's such a privilege to do this work. And okay, I'm gonna pause there because I feel like I touched on many, many pieces, and then yeah, open it up to what questions there are as a way to guide the where the conversation goes from here. Oh, you're muted still.
Wow, that's really amazing. I'm going to be looking at the chat for questions coming in, but I have some that I wanted to ask. So it's so amazing. I'm really so you help guide them guide them to come in. Do they reveal their gender or have like specific messages for their people?
Yeah, gender is one of the first things that comes through usually. It's like see a spirit baby, feel a gender, see a gender, and then, ask the person like, seems like there's a daughter, and they're like, yeah, I've always thought it's gonna be a girl, so it's kind of one of the first things to really just identify who's there and to, see who we're talking to. And then, yeah, that's one of the biggest questions people have of like, how can I help get them here? Which is a massive question. It's like such a, we're talking about the miracle of life, but then, the spirit babies will ask for different things, adding different, and I focus more on the like the spiritual parts. They will have some opinions about different medical routes or whatever. Oftentimes guides will step in and help guide the conversation. But yeah, they'll ask for like specific foods that they want the person to be eating, different things added to the altar. Sometimes dynamics within the relationship, though that can be hard if that the person's partner isn't there. I try to just focus on the one person who's like in front of me, but yeah, asking them to rest more or play more or write letters to their spirit baby. There's definitely themes that come through over and over, and then there's like some real specific things that they'll ask their future parent to do to help strengthen that relationship and like open the path and kind of get on each other's frequency to help the baby get here.
It does sound very similar to animal communication because I find that there is like sort of, I call it a universal message that they always have for their people. I always hear, play more, work less. They want us to be happy and so forth. But then they also have specifics. So it sounds very, very similar. Um, okay, here I wrote these down because I had so many questions. So do you ever, uh, so these are, when you connect to a soul, are there ever souls that they have been trying to come through before, not maybe with that specific person, but like maybe like this their second or third try, and they just either the woman can't conceive, or she had a miscarriage, and neither they're waiting to come back again. Does that question kind of make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I will find, there's so much tragedy in this work of, women who've had four miscarriages. And I'll see it's like the same soul trying again and again and again, and they're
Ooh,
stuck.
I got goosebumps, really.
Yeah, and sometimes, that same woman could have lost four pregnancies and it's four different souls or two or three. So sometimes it is this a soul trying to get in over and over. I don't focus on like, okay, maybe they were trying with someone else or they're going to go to someone else. I try to just focus on the relationship between that soul and the person sitting in front of me, um, versus if they were trying elsewhere before, because it just gets so complicated if I'm looking at too many different relationship dynamics.
So, so you used to, because when I first met you, uh, you had told me that you had been a medium for quite a while, that you just heard, souls just came through. Specifically, you'd mentioned like, I think it was your ex-boyfriend who kept coming through. So, two questions. How did you decide, like instead of just doing mediumship, how did you decide? Well, I think you answered that. You just felt a calling. You felt like they really needed to be heard. Like I was going to say, why did you decide to just go to Spirit Baby? And also, do you still do mediumship with the departed? And does your ex still come through?
Mm. So funny. He was like coming through yesterday. He probably knew we were going to have this
Oh,
conversation.
you keep
Um,
getting goosebumps. Okay.
Yeah, I started learning about mediumship because I had to, because yeah, the veil was really thin for me. My ex-partner, ex-boyfriend is on the other side. And I've known a lot of people who've died more than other people. I'm 37 now, but even 10 years ago, I feel like I knew more people who died and were close to them than most people I knew. And so it started to get really noisy, really unstable mentally for me, especially with a previous lover. It's really confronting and devastating to have it feel like they're like right there again. Like what do I do about that? Why are you here? And I'm sad and there's grief. And so I started learning about mediumship as a way to have better boundaries and be more in control of when the departed souls would come through, either mine or other, people posting announcements of their loved ones that have passed away. And I'm like, oh my God, now they're talking to me, like really putting that like consent in place and spiritual hygiene and energetic boundaries. Not to close it out, but so that I could show up for those connections and only can, you know, it's like you're walking through the grocery store and if every single person is coming up to you, like, I don't necessarily want to talk to all of you humans right now. It's the same way. If spirits are just in your face, it's like, we don't want every single human to just have access to us. So I always like to relate it to how we interact with like 3D humans because I find it's pretty similar. But anyways, I was doing mediumship studies for my own personal need and interest too, curiosity. And then for about like 6 months or 3 months or so, all of either the paid or practice readings I was doing had this baby element. Either that person happened to be trying, or little baby souls would come through, and finally my teacher was like, Justine, they're talking to you, they're asking you to pay attention. And I was at a point in my career where I was like, I'm ready to take a chance. So I was like, all right, here we go. Let's just try being a spirit baby medium. There weren't that many at the time. There's a lot more now than when I started. When I started, there was less than a dozen that I could find online. Now there's, a few dozen of us.
Oh,
But
really?
yeah, if you search really hard, you can, there's sprinkles. But when I started, there was like a few bigger ones, and yeah, then like a couple more sprinkled here and there. But yeah, I just started and then the doors were just open and then it's just kind of been rolling ever since. So I really just responded to them showing up and then kind of went from there.
I do know some communicators who say they'll walk into a shelter and they hear everyone speaking, and that has
Mm,
never happened to me. I think we talked about this before, but
mm,
I have to be focused on on one specific animal. Sometimes I do hear without intentionally without my intention of hearing, but
yeah.
usually. Um, it's a one-on-one dialogue. I don't just hear them just coming in. Yeah, because yeah, you would go crazy. I mean, you have to have that, you have to filter it, you have to filter it out. Um, so let's see. I had a whole lot, let me reading my questions here. Um, so so I don't know if I can word this correctly. Let me try. So okay, I'm still getting the feeling of what you're doing. So how does communicating with the spirit baby, let's say a woman comes to you because she wants to conceive. So I think I know the answer. I think you answered it. How does communicating with her spirit baby help her to conceive? The baby gives her reassurance, or like how does that, yeah, how does that help exactly? Is that
Yeah, that's a great question. What I add to their sometimes harrowing, sometimes lonely, frustrating, confusing journey is love and connection, possibility and hope. So
Mm.
adding that, especially if they're doing IVF and have had many treatments and are, it can be such a data-driven doctor's office kind of journey for a lot of women. Tracking their basically their fertility numbers every single day for
Mm.
months and months, poked and prodded and it can be really numbing actually. And so adding that connection really helps them have more peace. Um, and then I find if they are fostering that connection, if you look online or even from the doctor, like how to support your fertility, you can get like 100 million, no, just like 100 recommendations of like all the things to do to support your fertility, which can be a full-time job. And it's hard to know where to focus or where to edit. And so it can be helpful to ask the spirit baby of like, okay, do you actually care if I put my feet in the grass or get sun in my eyes or take this kind of supplement or walk every day or go to acupuncture, like and the list goes on and on and on and on, and it can be really exhausting or and especially the things you're not supposed to do. And then the baby could just like say a few things of what they really care about. And then it's like getting this tailored fertility support list for that soul versus just being like, I guess I'm gonna try everything because who knows? And then just adds to the stress and cost and
So
yeah.
that makes so much sense. So the work creates clarity and focus, um, alleviates the stress, and it's so true because when we are uh, so obsessed about pushing towards something, instead allow, surrender, positivity. It makes sense, doesn't it? So that spirit could just um, naturally come through because the intention is, I don't know if it's an intention, but the connection, the bond is there. And yeah, it's allowing and surrendering. That makes so much sense. Um, so, okay, well, I had written here, how do spirit babies know it's time? Okay, well, they just know. Um, and you already answered because my other question was, do you feel that the bonds could be karmic and familiar, like
Mhm.
they've been together before? And I think you said yes, they could be. They could be new souls, or they could be ones that they've been around before with that person, and now they're coming through as a baby. I think you had said that.
Yeah, there's a book called Spirit Babies by Walter McKitchen. He really coined the term.
Oh,
He passed away, and he really only left that book. He did a lot of teaching in the Bay Area, but not none of it was really documented. But anyways, in his book, he talks about the different roles where the parent is is the teacher, or sometimes the spirit baby is the teacher, or the healer, or sometimes and I believe it's in Buddhism, they say we choose our parents. And it's also, they're over there. They're the ones with their spirit guides being like, are we ready? And they jump through. We're already here. But so they're over there being like, those parents or parent system, if there's adoption or surrogates or, more people involved in the birth story. But they're over there being like them. And maybe it's because they provide a certain access to special interests, music, art, education, or perhaps it's, a harder life and they're wanting to really experience some part of the human experience that's part of their karma to learn. And then I have seen too, and this is just what I've seen. This isn't described in the book, I don't believe, but this is more through what I've seen with souls of sometimes it's just like they're just a family. It's like they're coming through again because they're like, that's my fam. Those are my parents. And it just works. And they want to recreate it again. Or sometimes they're flipping and like they were the parent before and now they're the kid. But lately I've been seeing of these kinds of like familiar systems of there's so much stuff we go through in life, and they're like, that family unit worked last time, let's just do it again, and then we'll figure out everything else in life instead of having to figure out the like family dynamic. So sometimes it's just the familiarity. That would be if they've been here before. But yeah, if it's like a brand new soul to Earth, then a lot of times they're looking for these more sensitive parents to help usher them in.
mhm. With my experience working with animals and spirit, and everything you just said is exactly how I've always felt about um, souls taking birth. And yeah, the roles are always switched. And
Mhm.
yet, a lot of people I know, um, with with animals, they're so attached to their departed animal. They really want that animal to come back, and they really believe that this is the animal reincarnated, this is the animal, no. And I always try and encourage people to remember that even if the animal is their exact animal that left, which I don't think that always happens that way, but even if it's true, you have to remember that it's not a replacement. This new soul has new lessons for you, new lessons to learn. It's a whole new life. And you have to like honor that and not try to recreate a clone, basically. It's sad when people just can't, they cannot accept their animal's death. Losing a baby must be devastating. I can't imagine people who have lost their children. But yeah, what you say is exactly how what I've experienced in my own work. And that, yeah, sometimes there's a Dr. Newton, and I forgot the name of his book. Um, I can never remember the name of the book. I have it right here on the shelf. But he was a doctor who hypnotized a lot of his patients, and they regressing back to their past lives. Oh, that's what I was going to say. And he shows that karmic relationship, and in seeing that relationship, in seeing what happened, what the relationship was with that person in their past life, then they realize, like for example, one man's mother had abandoned him at birth, and he was devastated and messed up, going to therapy all his life. When Dr. Newton brought him back in time, he saw that he had been some kind of ruler of people, like in a government position, and his mother had stolen food. He was controlling the food. The mother got the food, was feeding the people, and to show his authority and his control and his, to make a point, he had his mother executed. She came, so in this lifetime, I mean, just the way things kind of circle around. In this lifetime, his mother abandoned him to teach him, to show him the pain of separation, for example. But my point is, um, if more of us understood what you just said about those karmic bonds, and I believe that too, and coming into choosing our parents, we would have more forgiveness for our, the mother who may have abused us, the father who may have whatever happened in our childhood. To remember that these were karmic lessons that on some level, not that it's our fault, you understand this, but on some level, we chose to learn those lessons in this lifetime. We chose our parents. And if we could really understand that and accept it, it would create a lot, it would create a lot more forgiveness in our hearts, a lot less resentment, and a lot less therapy sessions, you know?
Yeah. Still
Um,
might need all the therapy, right? But
it's what?
still might need the therapy for it. But
That's
yeah,
true.
it's like we chose them for a reason. And so what is that reason? And how can we get the most from that reason instead of being stuck in resentment or wishing it was different or
Oh,
being angry or whatever it is, and then also trusting, if you are a parent or want to be, that the souls are choosing you for a reason. A lot of people put all this pressure to have everything perfect and be the perfect parent, and it's like the soul chose you, like as you are. So to trust them too and their choice of you if they're choosing you as a parent.
that's a really important point. I can see where this work would really create really healthy outcomes, because what you said before, I know fertility rates are down,
Mhm.
but I didn't realize that there's so many interventions and without them, and so many unhealthy pregnancies. I did not know that.
A lot of, I mean, we just escalate things. Our medical system escalates things. We add more tests, we add more escalations, we add more C-sections, and it's not turning into better birth outcomes. We don't have more healthy babies and healthy mothers because of it. Our maternal rates of women dying during childbirth are terrible for us being supposed to be one of the best countries in the world for medicine. So our interventions aren't getting us to a better place. Um, so yeah, it's all the numbers are just bad across the board, unfortunately.
That I guess across the board with I'm not going to even get into it, but there's a lot of botched trans surgeries, and just listening to some of these people who are sorry that they went along with it. Not everybody, I know some people who have been fine with it, but I've just been listening to a lot of people on the opposite end who are suffering. Anyway, modern medicine. Let me see if anyone has said anything in our chat. No one has any questions? If you have a question, anybody, put it in the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to keep asking. I'll keep the chat open. Um, let's see. Oh, I wanted to ask you, um, on your website, beautiful website, by the way, I love your photographs. You talked about you offer fertility retreats. Can you tell us what you do? You just came back from a retreat in New Hampshire. What do you do with your on your fertility retreats?
Yeah, so we had the inaugural one in April, just a few weeks ago. I hosted it with two other women. Carrie Hines does fertility yoga, and her and I have been doing an online workshop for like 2.5 years. And so this is the blooming of that partnership, bringing it into real life. And then because we were going to be in person, we added another colleague, Phoebe Lyman, who does fertility massage. We're like, if we're going to be in person, let's get some hands-on work for the bellies, for the wombs. So
Wow,
it was in New Hampshire at this beautiful farmhouse in the woods,
beautiful.
fresh pond, wood-fired sauna. Oh, it was a stunning location and property. They had some fresh baby lambs on site and some chickens and delicious meals. So, and we brought a group of 8 women together. So eight and then the three of us, so 11 total. Um, And, it was a time to really create community. Women struggling with fertility, it can be a really lonely journey. They might not tell people they're struggling. They might be embarrassed or people don't know what to do with death in our culture, so they especially don't know what to do with pregnancy loss and, fertility struggles. So often women can keep it to themselves. And so it's really about bringing women together so they have that community, so they can talk about the different choices or supplements or the past and have that connective tissue between each other. And then the schedule was meant to be really restorative, really juicy and feminine. So we had daily meditation, daily fertility yoga, which is more focused. It's more of a restorative practice than like a athletic pursuit. And then had some ceremonial pieces, new moon fire ceremony, some ecstatic dance, womb connection. I taught a spirit baby workshop and did um, a spirit baby meditation, also helped with some of the ceremonial pieces. Yeah, and other workshops around. Phoebe did an incredible workshop on self massage for it's like all the places we don't usually know how to touch, like our bellies and our wombs, and the places that massage therapists will often ignore, like your jaw and all of the places in the body. So it was really about connecting body, energy, spirit all together in a restorative way, no matter where these women are in their journeys. And yeah, to give them time to rest and learn and be together and really just like refresh themselves on their path of wanting to become moms.
Awesome. Where do the other two women live? Are they
So
from California?
Carrie's in Washington, Phoebe's in LA. So we all know each other from like West Coast, but we all have roots to New England. So Carrie used to teach yoga in Boston. Phoebe is from New Hampshire. I'm from Massachusetts. So we realized
Nice.
we all had roots there.
Yep.
And then because of that, we all have clients over that way too. And so it was this beautiful thing of really like honoring where we're from in a way. And instead of, some exotic retreat, which, there's benefits to that too, but really the groundedness of earth, of home, of land that has supported the three of us. And then most women drove. There was one woman who got on a plane, but most every single person who uh, came drove. So they were within driving distance. So it had that really beautiful, like local, regional, homegrown kind of feel.
I like I did a workshop in Connecticut and in well, Pennsylvania too, and I love doing them back there because I'm
Mm.
from Connecticut. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's that ground. Yeah, it's making you want to go back. Yeah, that grounding feeling. As when I first came to Los Angeles, it took me about 4 years to feel my center, like because there's not a center like there is back east. It's hard to explain, but everything was just like vast and I felt kind of lost in space for a long time. It took me a long time to adjust. And now sometimes when I go back there, not Connecticut, but New York I'm very congested. I don't know if I could ever live in New York. I used to always want to, but after living in Los Angeles, I think I'm a little too relaxed for that energy. Um, what else? We're going to wrap up pretty soon, but I want to ask you, let me just look at my question list. Let me, you just covered everything in your talk, I believe. Um, so yeah, I mean, yeah, because you already you did. Because my other question was, you speak to spirit to babies who are coming in, not that those who have died, but they're all dead. But yes, the ones, not everyone is ready to come in. So you're speaking to souls that are ready to take birth, and they're not just ones who might be, some are just settling in. Some souls might be still have work to do. Maybe they're not going to incarnate at this time, and they know that. Um, but you're tuning into those who have chosen, and they know where they're going. Do they all know where they're going? I mean, do they all have a parent? Do you ever speak to a spirit baby who's looking for a womb?
Hmm. Not, I mean, I'm sure I'm like, those are probably the ones that I thought like talk to me when I'm like walking in the woods or, more spontaneous connection. Because if I'm sitting in session with someone, I'm talking to the spirit baby connected to that person. So then already there's a connection. There is often though, sometimes their spirit babies are distant or faint. And that is then part of the work. It's like, okay, maybe they don't totally feel comfortable being in that person's aura. Maybe there's a big disconnect. The connection isn't strong enough yet. So part of the work is to help that spirit baby be closer and closer. I I believe Walter talks about this in his book too, but the way I see it is like there's an order. It's like maybe someone's gonna have multiple kids, or maybe they've had multiple pregnancy losses. But anyways, it's almost like often I see it as like a ski race, when like someone's getting ready to go down the hill. It's like they line up almost in that way. And they don't go, it's single file unless there's twins, right? Or
Thing.
triplets or something. But so I like to focus on the one who's next because if we're focusing on like the third born, but we never get the firstborn here or whatever order we're in, it's irrelevant because they're kind of stuck. So I try, and I usually have an hour with my client, so it's like, okay, let's focus on what's most relevant. If we get lost talking about the third born forever, you have two kids, you decide you're done, then like, okay, it's like let's focus on who's going to be next. Um, or can focus on previous pregnancies, the ones that have been here. Um, Lately in sessions, more spirit babies are, I try to just talk to one in a session so we can really go deep. Lately, more than one are showing up, maybe all the kids that want to be born, plus some previous pregnancies. So I will try to address who's there, but then it does help to focus because if we're looking at all of these souls, it's like, okay, well, let's just give the one attention. And maybe it's the one that needs healing because it was a really traumatic pregnancy that didn't go to term or an abortion even or a miscarriage. Maybe they're the one that really needs tending to in order to then focus on the one that they want to bring in. Or perhaps the woman isn't even thinking about birth. They're just thinking about pregnancy loss, and that's the season they're in. But it's yeah, trying to hold space for the all while being in the intentional focus so that the relationships can really morph and change in a way that's healing and progressive.
How interesting. You submitted a story for the my forthcoming book on animals and spirit, and there was one woman who submitted a story about a shamanic journey she did, and in the journey she encountered, I mean, it's a beautiful story. I'm summing it up in like a couple sentences, but she met the soul that miscarried, and she also met the soul um uh that well, it was all very symbolic, but she also met this was her interpretation afterwards. She also met the soul that she believes is her daughter now. I mean, because she was sort of like going back, but it was just interesting because you talk about lining up, and it's like they were still there. It's not like the one that miscarried. It wasn't like that they went anywhere. They understood that she wasn't ready at the time or something.
Mm.
I forgot exactly what she said, but it was a very touching story. Um, let's see. Let me ask you. I'm just looking through this quickly, and then we'll wrap it up. Yeah, you answered everything. I had 13 questions. I didn't have to ask any of them. You covered everything. Um, this is so interesting because I've just recently taken just a couple workshops with for mediumship.
Hmm.
I found that I really, really love doing it, and I want more practice, and I want to continue with that. I mean, I do it for animals, but this is my first time I did it for humans. I'm talking about humans, so it was pretty amazing. Well, before we wrap up, would you like to tell us, because we have no questions, I think everybody is just really soaking it all in and digesting. This was so interesting, so very interesting. Because I really didn't know because I thought, what is she doing? I really didn't understand it. Now I do. So tell us how people can reach you, your website and anything else.
Yeah, so my website is my name with a dash in the middle, justine-cohen.com. So all the details about one-on-one readings, any upcoming events. Um, I do spirit baby letters. So most often I'll sit in session. You have a 1 hour Zoom with me, or you can get a letter from your spirit baby. And so that's on my website. And that'll be like an audio delivered to your inbox. I also have a collaboration for fertility perfume. So we take your astrological birth chart and you get a perfume tied to those signatures through my collaborator, and then I'll give a channeled astrological reading based on your birth chart and how that relates to your fertility. So a couple cool different products on my site also. And then I'm most active on Instagram at the Fertility Oracle. So that's where you can find me on Instagram. And then I do send newsletters too, and you can sign up for those on my website.
That's your handle on IG is the fertility, what is it?
The Fertility Oracle.
Oh, cool. I like that.
Thank you.
Oh, great. Okay, I didn't know that. All right. Okay, Justine, thank you so much. It was good to see you, and thank you so much for coming on. Uh, Really great to have you.
Thank you so much, Diana. Thanks for asking me to be here. Yeah, I love sharing about what I do and especially how it relates to animals. I love animals so much. And yeah, it's really cool what you're creating here. And yeah, happy to show up today.
Okay. All right. Have a great day. Thank you.
You too. Bye.
Bye.